from WABYZ Chicago. It's This Imperium Life, distributed by Matt Martins and Hunter Donaldson. I'm Ira Glass, and the theme of today's show is Twilight Imperium. What is it exactly? Today, we'll find out.
Music by Ben Prunty, featuring Matt Martins and Hunter Donaldson.
I was playing as the Embers of Muat, and I was doing great. The Nalu Collective was rushing for a victory. They were on Mechatol, had several points, and the speaker token to secure themselves Imperial. Meanwhile, I was in a pickle. I had a stage 2 and a secret in the bag, but I was at 6 points, just barely shy of the win. I had been feeling confident that no one knew I had enough trade goods for the stage 2 objective, but there was nothing I could do to win this round. I resigned myself to getting to 9, but without the perfect secret objective, the next round, there was no way I could beat the Nalu, unless I dealt with them. I bargained with the Isarl to purchase his promissory note, Spy Network, so I could take from him a flank speed. With this flank speed, I could get my War Sun in a small fleet to the Nalu Production Center to destroy their fleet and flagship, and then be in a position to seize their home. I stalled out the table, then began my move. First, to take a cultural planet to prevent their secret and clear the way for the feature presentation. Unfortunately, unless the combat went really well for me, I wouldn't be able to score a secret objective here. I wasn't too concerned, though, as I wasn't going to win here anyway. Until the Nalu offered me their support for this throne. In one transaction, I could win the game. The table was stalled out. I could use my War Sun to guarantee my secret, and the game would be over. No one could stop me. My first win as the Embers was secured, but I had made a deal with the Isarl to attack the Nalu. The Isarl reminded me of my pledge, the non-binding assurance that I would attack the Nalu Collective. I knew that even winning the game wasn't worth breaking my word, so I rested easy on my decision as I struck at the Nalu. Their ships folded as I attacked them twice, though my War Sun suffered on the final battle. I won, but failed to score my secret. With that, my win became a loss. Though I do regret some moves I made in that game, I do not regret my decision to honor my deal.
That was from Chills on Hill's Jensen, and I regret his decision to not honor his deal.
You know what?
I regret it deeply.
Yeah, so this is welcome to This Imperium Life.
Yeah.
We're doing our fourth. We haven't done it in a long time,
We haven't done
actually.
it in so long.
It's been too long. And we actually said way back when that it was going to be themed about salty stories, I think is what we said.
Yes.
There's some salt in here, but it's not all salt. Obviously, it's not all salty because we kind of open with this anti-salt
We had to get
story.
your palate cleansed, right?
Yes.
That's what we're doing here today. Today we had to start you, and you can't just start with salt. That's too much. That's too much of a kick. You gotta get an appetizer that's a little bit more,
sweet. I mean,
little sweeter.
I'm a chocolate and nuts kind of guy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I like them together. One thing I want to say about this story, though, Jensen, who I miss actually being on the Discord. Not that I ever talked to him very much one-on-one or really at all.
presence was known.
But he was such a. I'm glad we're starting with him anyways today.
Yeah.
It's interesting because I feel like I am a very honorable player of Twilight Imperium. Right. And Matt, you are a trash goblin, somebody who you would eat garbage to win. You would, yeah. If somebody was like, "Hey, I'll let you win Twilight Imperium if you eat this garbage on live TV in front of everybody, in front of the nation," you would. I am a lot more honorable, but I still am not as, I guess, honorable as this guy Jensen. Like I would, there's no way. I would be like,
it's
sorry,
funny too,
bud.
Because I feel like we've seen plenty of stories from Jensen where he's definitely not acted honorably. So I don't know where this sudden honor is coming from.
Well, maybe
he's a decently honorable dude, but he's done some cheeky, underhanded stuff before.
But maybe if we examined Jensen's story, his saga as a player, maybe we could kind of see him turn from the salt side. There's still sweet in him, right? And this is it. This is the he at some point, I guess he turned to being a very sweet boy. He chills on hills now, right? I mean, he used to die on right. He used to die on hills. But now he chills on hills. That's a little in-jokey, so I don't know. Some people are going to be like, I don't even know who this is. I don't know what you're talking about. His name used to be Dies on Hills Jensen because I guess he used to argue about stuff, which is like every single person that listens to this show.
He was the biggest and the most prominent early on, and I said he would die on just about any hill. And so but let's move on to the next story.
Okay.
Snara let go of her father's hand as she approached the imposing statue of Councillor Grumman and ran toward it with a look of wonder in her face. "Is that you, Daddy?" His mind snapped to the present as his child broke free, his eyes scanning the environment quickly for possible threats. Gangs in these parts can earn a sizable sum in the ransom of a diplomat's child. "How many times, Snara? Don't wander free in public! This is the capital!" The child gazed, open-mouthed, at the bronze monument before her. "Why are you a statue?" "It's Daddy's job. I signed an accord with the Tsar and the Muat. People seem to think it matters." "You've got a statue for signing your name?" The counselor began growing increasingly aware that people nearby were recognizing him. "Come along, Snara. We don't want to be late for your mother." She grabbed his large, soft hands as they began walking away. "But why?" she asked. "Well, the Tsar pledged their allegiance to us in the Galactic Senate, and the Muat promised to never again bring their war sons to our borders. And this has allowed us to prosecute our war with the Extra unchallenged and brought us close to control of the galaxy." The little girl frowned, the finer points of galactic politics lost on her youthful mind. "But didn't you say that you had so few votes it was pointless to even go to the council? Like 3 or something?" Saddened that his child had been listening to his cynicism, he confessed, "Yes, I did. Mummy's probably waiting for us now. Stay close, Snara." Snara wanted to learn, and she didn't yet understand and wasn't prepared to let the topic drop. "So, what did you have to vote for?" The counselor's mind drifted back to the time he first had to report the news to Erwan's hand, and the exasperation on the mighty leader's face as he told him the news. You know, I had just returned from the bathroom." He paused as if to try and remember one last time. I came back in and I have no idea. I don't know. I do not know what I voted for."
All right, that was from Becky Rose.
I love these very long roundabout ways to tell very simple stories where it's like it was such a good moment, but if I tried to tell it as a story, it would be like 3 sentences long. So
right.
How do I just expand it?
I think it's interesting that this is such a common occurrence in Twilight Imperium culture that people take things that happen in the game and they turn them into prose. So what is the story actually talking about, Matt? If anybody is confused as to what,
well, it's clearly there was some agenda phase happened, and so and so said, "I have 3 votes. You guys deal with your agenda. I'll come back later."
They went to the bathroom. They're like, "This is a good bathroom break for me."
And when they come back out from the bathroom, chaos has ensued, and everything is down to their vote, and they must be the deciding factor. And here's lots of money, and here's lots of support for the thrones. And no, but I want it this way. And your 3 votes are the most important thing in the world. And the agenda has ceased to exist. It is now about this other side pot that everyone is worried about.
Right.
And those are the best agendas, honestly. Like when it's just like research team warfare or whatever, like one of those planet ones that nobody ever cares about, but then for some reason everybody cares about. Usually because like a writer is in play, right? Like one Imperial writer drops and it's like, "Oh, guys, the agenda changed. Everyone, hey, new agenda. It's someone's gonna get a point or not."
I always think it's very funny when something kind of minor comes up and basically every agenda or every writer comes out essentially, and it becomes a whole new agenda phase completely. I also I really like this idea of thinking about like really minor things that you would do in Twilight Imperium that would like actually in the fiction of the world, like the people involved with this would like get like a statue of them, you know?
Over just like your dumb well, that goes too to the stuff we were talking about with action cards and things, where it's like, what is the fiction of some of these action cards, like especially when people are trying to use them in a weird cheeky way, where it's like, I'm gonna make an example of their world, but I want it to be my own world, so I'm gonna make an example of my civilization of people, and then that's gonna earn me the support of everyone. Yes, that's right, mass genocide, hooray. Like the fiction breaks down.
I almost wish that there was, because that's something that I feel like people have brought up several times, especially lately. Those kind of weird situations where people want to hurt themselves to score points.
Yes.
I almost wish there was like a custom faction where that was like what they do. Essentially, is they could fulfill any like action phase secret on themselves if they want to. And they could also activate themselves to fight themselves if they could think of a reason to do it.
They're at war with themselves.
Yeah. I mean, I would never want that to be a real faction like in a future expansion or something. But I think it would be fun if someone actually designed that.
Some
like,
theoretical faction.
Yeah. Just like a fun homebrew faction. And their whole thing is that they can hurt themselves. And that's basically it. But yeah, I love this moment. I love this way of contextualizing it. Like anytime someone feels like they're not going to matter in an agenda phase, and then it turns out that they really do a whole lot. Like that kind of thing. Like you only saved like a vote, and that's it. But then, like, everybody throws their riders down, and now technically have you ever, like, do you remember early on in Twilight Imperium where people would play riders and not understand that they didn't get to vote then?
Yeah.
So there were some agendas where people would misplay really bad with the riders, and it would just be like, all right, well, now Tony gets to decide what happens. Like, because
Tony's
he's just
like got pizza hanging out of his mouth. Like, huh? What? Oh, crap.
Yeah, sorry, Tony. Everybody played their decked cards, so...
Do you want to touch the shard or not?
Yeah, it's your shard. You got to give it to somebody, and we're all gonna make a lot of money or not. So go ahead, Tony. Who do you like? This is a TI3 game with all the expansions and using the Shattered Empire strategy cards, the white cards. I was Sol and hit 9 victory points using bureaucracy in the previous round and had a large lead. I played political stability to keep bureaucracy, draw 2 objectives, pick 1 to reveal, and one of the stage 2s is called Imperium Rex. And when Imperium Rex is revealed, the game ends immediately. So the point here is to take bureaucracy and draw Imperium Rex. I knew I could score the stage 1 or reveal Imperium Rex for the win. Unfortunately, that meant I was last in initiative. I was signal jammed during the strategy phase, and I was ruthlessly attacked by all 5 players, all but one of which sent 4 mechanized units plus infantry. After the second attack, I had no home system, so I couldn't score, but the attacks kept coming. By the end of the round, I controlled 0 ships, 0 home system planets, and all I had was Hope's End with an irresponsible amount of infantry. The build while blockaded action card is in the discard, as well as the card that lets you play from the discard. So I have no way of getting ships with capacity into play. Next round, I moved everything from fleet supply to strategy and choose leadership, and I use orbital drop until everyone has passed. The second round, where I only have 1 planet, I choose assembly to get the speaker token. I continue using orbital drop for as long as possible, and then cause a meaningless vote. The third round, where I have 1 non-Jord planet and nothing else, but I'm still leading the game technically, I choose bureaucracy. There are only 3 objective cards remaining, and I still fail to reveal Imperium Rex, which means it must be the last card. Jolnar then gets to their 10th point in the status phase, so I check the last objective card, and then I realize that we forgot to include Imperium Rex when we started the game. What a fun little goof 'em up. What a
I feel like everybody does that exactly once and then never, ever, ever again. I feel like this was a very, like, staunch thing that happened in TI3, which is like one game happens where the Imperium Rex card got messed up and it completely ruined one person's chances of winning.
Right.
So that one person is like, when we shuffle the things, it's like, did you put Imperium Rex in there? Is it in there? I want you to prove to me that it's in there, and then like it's solved forever. But you make that mistake one time and then never again.
Yeah. This was from Brian. I forgot to say. But it's interesting because this is a very funny story, because obviously he's gunning for this strategy that is impossible because they set it up incorrectly. They didn't do the setup right. Which, I mean, yeah, it's something common. And I mean, we've messed things. We didn't do the Imperial Rider thing correctly for like probably
for
the
while.
first 6 months of us playing the game,
Yeah.
which was so dumb.
Yeah.
But it's a game. You make dumb mistakes. But anyways, this is actually a very good illustration of why I did not like Imperium Rex.
Oh,
Because
really? I have the opposite reaction. Continue, though.
See, I didn't like it because I don't like this idea that Brian has. Like, his strategy of, like, if I can just draw Imperium Rex, the game will be over and I will win. And I think that's a lame strategy.
And again, in the fiction of it, it totally breaks down. What is Imperium Rex? What is this thing that someone is like, no, today is the day we decide who sits on the throne, not tomorrow, it's over.
Right.
Like, it doesn't really make any sense, but I don't know. I just loved that there was a lot of variance in TI3. And because what has resulted is this new thing of, like, you know exactly when the game's going to end because people get the points at the right time. You know, it's like every game ends round 6, and there's no chance that anything else could happen. If that first stage 2 you could reveal was Imperium Rex, the whole game would be different because people would be trying to get as many points as possible early on. Because that's what it did in TI3, is everyone got every point they could at every moment. And now swing rounds are so much more important because the only thing that matters is getting that 10th point versus having the game end while you're at 7 and above everybody else or whatever. Like, that was way more possible in TI3. So yeah, it has certainly changed the scope of the game. And I don't even think that's something we realized early on, like how impactful it would be. But like TI4 endgame is very different than TI3 endgame. I don't feel like we ever had the types of situations of these weird, we keep calling it hot potato, right? Where it's just like, it's anybody's game and it keeps passing around. I don't feel like that happened nearly as often.
But I also feel like in TI3 there were more games where it would just kind of end and it would kind of be a little dissatisfying. Like I think you're right that the hot potato thing. Yeah, like the hot potato thing I feel like wasn't as common, or I don't know, I might just be like kind of misremembering. But I also feel like there were more TI3 games that just would kind of like, oh, here we go, and then it would be like, oh, it's over, huh? Okay, well, definitely. I guess it's over. I guess Brian won with Soul, and all he had was Hope's End. I guess that's fine. Whatever.
Right.
But yeah, I just don't like that intention of like, all right, well, all I'm gonna try and do is keep the game moving as fast as I can forward, so that it just ends quickly. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I think there's a little bit of value in it still too, just because it opens up the variance of what people are going for too, right?
Right.
Because the other thing you had on top of that was you had the objective that was you win the game if you control 2 opponents' home systems.
Right.
So some people could bank on that happening. I mean, you almost never saw it happen. Most people just ignored that public objective. But there's a world where someone could say, I'm just going to make that happen for myself.
Yeah,
I'm going to start in the early game and hope that one comes out when the stage 2s come out, because if I can qualify for it, I'll just win, and I'm just going to only gun for that.
I'm not against that card. Yeah. And also I'm actually not against Imperium Rex if it doesn't have to be included. If it does play the way that Brian unintentionally plays.
You're saying sometimes it's not even in there at all. And
like I think what Brian experienced should have been the norm with that card, which is like, so that way you couldn't play specifically for it, just trying to like get bureaucracy played as soon as possible, just to like throw things out there and steal the victory. So that wouldn't be doable, because it would just be like, well, it would be, but it would just like, it would have a different context. It wouldn't be about rushing. It would just be like, well, my only chance is to hope that that's in there. But it might
Instead
not
of like, it's definitely in there somewhere and I better get to it. It's like, it may just not even be there and I have to cut my losses.
Yeah. I like that a lot more, and I think I would be down
Yeah.
for Imperium Rex to make a return in the future
Yeah.
if
I
that
would
was
love
the context.
Imperium Rex to come back, and I would love the Age of Empire rules to make a comeback.
Oh yeah, that would be awesome.
I miss the occasional Age of Empire game. Not all the
Yeah.
time. It's not an all the time thing, but it's a great way to shake up, and it's the best way to play a fast game of TI. Holy
Yeah,
cow.
it's so wild. Anyways, this is not about TI3. We've got another story.
Barony, Necro, Jolnar, Krius, and Nalu sit down to embark on an epic journey for galactic control. Round 3 ends with Barony on Mechatol Rex at 5 points, with me as Krius in second place with 2 points. It's not looking good. I quietly suggest to Necro that maybe he should take my promissory note and make good use of it near Mechatol Wormhole to go unseat Barony and claim it for himself. He seems interested in the idea, and an agreement is struck. He has yet to build his flagship, he's stolen no technologies, and his home system is looking like a juicy, undefended target. Seeing this, Barony is able to extort a commodity out of Necro in exchange for not activating his home system, a gentle reminder to shore up defenses that goes unnoticed. Round 4, Necro loses track of his goal to claim Mechatol and begins eyeing undefended Barony space. Letnev sees this and generously warns Necro that should he begin aggressions, Barony could easily take his home system. Again, I plead with Necro to do something about Barony. He has delicious-looking techs. He's got a nice spot on Mechatol and a commanding lead. Surely this was enough to entice some aggression across the board, right? Wrong. Necro begins to openly discuss turning the board against Barony to prevent him from winning yet again. Wisely, Barony takes the opportunity to strike at his biggest military threat and activates Necro's home system. This is when we find out the replicator homeworld is, in fact, powered exclusively by salt. The Necro player immediately launches into a tirade against Barony, claiming injustice and spiteful actions as he has a commanding lead, Mechatol, and is in possession of the Imperial card, as Necro was speaker and Barony chose second, quietly grabbing up a free victory point. And then the worst happens. If you attack my home system, I'm just gonna go home. Awkward silence falls over the table. This isn't the first time this player has made statements like this, but they've blown over easily before and have never seemed to be made in earnest. This time, however, felt different. Several of us try to reason with the Necro player, justifying the Barony's strategy, but agreeing that it was a jerk move to take the home system. We agreed that we wanted to see Barony stopped, but none of us were in a position to do anything about it. Our arguments fell on deaf ears. For about 10 minutes, Necro continued to argue at the table and rebut Barony's bribery price, 4 trade goods and antivirus, a steep price to pay, to be sure. Eventually, we grew tired of the threat. Do what you're gonna do. I tell him, knowing that if this player leaves, it will likely be the last time any of us invite him back. The arguments and complaints continue for another 5 minutes. Eventually, we get an answer out of him about what he's going to do. I'm gonna roll, and then I'm gonna go home. Seeing the opportunity to get him to stay, we agree and roll combat. The lonely cruiser doesn't stand a chance against the Barony fleet as it arrives and is summarily dispatched. The 2 ground forces do not survive bombardment. Necro shakes his head and leaves. So now our 5-player game becomes a horrible variant of 4-player. We follow player elimination rules to clear the board. Barony keeps his home system, and we leave the speaker token in the same spot, moving it on the next play of the politics card. But now we're leaving 4 strategy cards behind at each strategy phase, and 3 underpowered militaries attempt to square off against the naval might of the Letnev. We make the best of it, though, upgrading the player by replacing him with a Bluetooth speaker, propping tokens up on it and making jokes. Ultimately, Barony wins to no one's surprise, but not for lack of effort. Jolnar and I made a last-ditch effort to displace him during the final round and at least slow down his win while Nalu staged himself for action in the next round, unable to make it to Mechatol in time. Ironically, had Necro stayed, Barony would have likely been stopped or at the least massively slowed down.
That was from Dan from Minnesota.
Dan from Minnesota. That's our most on brand from that fulfilled the prompt. We got a check mark right there on the prompt of salt stories.
Yeah.
Ooh, mama.
That is I think the prototype of
Right.
every salt story is, well, I think
Right.
that's the thing about saltiness is I think where saltiness crosses the line is when it is going way outside of the bounds of the game. It's like the flip the table type thing, essentially. I mean, this player didn't flip
Yeah,
the table, but he
exactly.
sort of did because he made them play 4-player, the worst variant of 4-player, which we have played before, actually. We didn't talk about this in the
proper elimination.
Right. We didn't talk about this before, but we have played, whenever we did the 4-player episode, we should have said, we actually have played 4-player, but we didn't get 2 strategy cards, which I actually don't know which
Right.
one I hate more, now that I think about it. But I don't know. What do you feel like is have you ever been this mad that you were going to leave? That you thought about leaving?
No, I've never. Here's the most mad I've ever been, and it was at Connor for the confusing legal text play. You can watch the maddest I've ever been in Twilight Imperium, and it is in the first holiday spectacular. But the reason I was mad extends beyond the confines of the game because I thought in the moment he was misplaying the card, misunderstanding the card. So I thought he was doing something intentionally, and what I thought he was intentionally doing was throwing the game because he was sick of playing. His game had gone to kind of crap, and I thought he was king making. And I thought he was king making on the first stream we had ever done.
Yeah,
on
that's
this
true.
new project we were starting out that I cared very deeply about and wanted our first video out there to be as good, if not better, than the shut up and sit down old video. I really wanted to knock it out of the park. And so with him ending the game on this like horrible note, I was like, you ruined SCPT is over. You've completely dismantled my empire. You've ruined everything for me. No one will ever take us seriously because our first game ended in the dumbest way possible. That's like all the things that were going through my head and why I was like screaming at him basically.
Yeah, that makes sense. Did you just call it your empire? Did you just say
no,
the words? He almost dismantled my empire.
I'm being obviously hyperbolic.
Yes, this empire of the one show we do.
Well, especially in December of 2017, when it was like 200 listeners.
Right? Yeah, like what an empire that was then, Matt. 200 nerds, just like I like this.
This is fine. yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no. Just to call that out in general. If you go on our YouTube and go, just in case some of you haven't seen it, I assume probably a lot of people haven't seen it because it's way back there now.
Yeah.
But if you go to the first game that we ever did, the first holiday spectacular, there is towards the end. Matt does a head desk, and it is one for the ages. One for the ages. Because it's on a hard table, too.
Yeah.
It's a hard
it's
head
on a
desk.
thick hardwood table. Well,
it's weird. You're not really known for the
that's my
head desks
superpower.
anymore, I feel like.
Well, again, and I've said this before, but it's been explained to me that my wife wants me to remember our children when we have them.
Right.
And when I'm older. And if I continue to head desk, that part of my life probably gets removed. So
Yeah, we're getting older, you know?
I think you lose the part of the brain that remembers children the more you head desk. That's like in science somewhere.
Yeah. Well, I actually specifically would like to play a game in the future where the goal is to make you head desk. Yeah, like that's what I want.
Well, Sean better be there. That's the only way that happens anymore.
He is the key. I have a group of friends with whom I am quite close, but we live in several different states. Once each year, we gather together for a week of board gaming and other nerd things. There are 5 of us, but only three of the 5 actually like Twilight Imperium. However, each year we play it once during this event. The 3 of us make concessions to get the game to table, typically in the form of agreeing to play other games we ourselves might not love. One of the 2 players who does not like Twilight Imperium also doesn't like competitive games in general. He has more fun with co-op games and doesn't enjoy competing against his friends. When he does play a strategy game like TI, he tends to form an alliance with a player and will stick to it, even unto his own demise. If someone breaks a deal with him, he will calmly but firmly inform them that no further deals will be made, and he will actively hinder that player whenever he can. We shall call him Simon. During this particular game of TI3, the player's ally was rapidly approaching victory, The other 3 of us were working out ways to stop him from scoring. I had a small fleet within striking distance of an important planet or something. But between the target and my fleet was Simon's PDS network, protecting himself and his chosen ally. Simon, says I must move ships through your space to attack your ally, for if I do not, he shall claim the throne. It does seem as though he is poised for victory, replies Simon. Just so, I exclaim. But I knew my fleet was vulnerable to Simon's PDS fire, and I knew I would need his blessing to make the attack work. Simon, my friend, you must see that if you fire upon my forces, you too shall share in our defeat, ally or not. I accept this as a true statement, Simon says, but you must not agree to use this fleet against me in the future. Very well. I activate the discussed system and attack with my fleet. I order the soldiers operating my PDS to open fire, says Simon. I stand above the table, and my gaze shifts to Simon, my visage turning first to shock, then to despair, then to rage. Simon rolls his dice. He rolls well. My fleet is annihilated. You see, earlier in the game, I had taken a planet from Simon, after telling him I would not. I needed it for a new objective, and he was unwilling to renegotiate a deal. So I altered the deal myself. But this was a betrayal, and Simon does not suffer traitors. My rage boiled over. I share some expletives, with no effort made to hide my anger. You betrayed my trust, Simon says calmly. How can I trust you not to turn this fleet against me when it suits you? I bluster for a moment, flabbergasted, unable to form words. But this was the only way you could possibly have a chance at winning, I finally managed to exclaim. I do not care about winning, Simon says. All that matters to me is the sanctity of my alliance and the fact that you have already broken your word to me. I left the table and the room infuriated. Never before in my life, and thankfully never since, have I been so genuinely angry with a friend. After some time taken to cool down, I refused to continue the game, though it likely wouldn't have lasted much longer anyways. I would not, I decided, play a game with someone who will not act in their own interest. Since then, our group no longer plays TI when we gather. We rarely play strategy games at all, which is probably for the best. We have, however, had several hours-long discussions about the meta and the ethics of board gaming as a result. In the end, only one thing really matters. Everyone should be having fun. That was from Root.
That was from Root, Alec
That
Keeler.
was from Alec Keeler, Root.
And just proof that he's a dirty rage quitter. We've had 2 rage quitting stories today. One of them about how mean and dirty of a person is, and the other from the lips of the man himself.
Right. So here's the thing. I feel like this guy, Simon, who Root has wisely, obviously given a fake name. This is their secret agent name, Simon.
We should hope so.
Yeah, unless the name is Simon.
Would that be a horrible trick of like, oh, we'll call him Simon because his
we don't
mother
have
calls him
his,
Simon and his father calls him Simon and everyone he knows calls him Simon. So this is Simon.
Right, but we don't have his last name or his address. Well, I mean, I do have that right here and his social security number, but I'm not going to display all of that. But I will display some of it for a small fee. Anyways, the point I'm trying to make is that I want to try and be fair because obviously Root was... He made himself vulnerable to us and to the community, sharing about this time that he got really, really mad. And I just want to say that Simon makes me furious. Playing with people that are going to hurt and ruin my game when it feels like they are not playing to win. And literally, Simon said the magic words, "I do not care about winning."
Yes.
Oh,
right. That's sort of the ticket.
To sit for 6 hours with someone you thought was a friend, only to find out that they are a dirty, nasty, they're not doing it right.
Well,
and this is so upsetting.
Boy, is it a tough situation when it's like this person didn't want to play in the first place. Like, can we really blame him?
Yeah,
Well, we can. We can.
Yes,
Absolutely.
Gonna and am doing that right now. Am doing that. Putting the I was wearing a glove and I took it off and threw it on the ground, and then I spit on the ground too. That's for you, Simon. Come at me.
But like, I feel like we've seen versions of this. Playing with Barrett was kind of like this, although he wasn't. He wasn't so weird. He just tuned out completely, and it was like playing with nothing. It was like playing with a pocket of air.
Right. Yeah, we have a friend named Barrett who I feel like we've talked about maybe once or twice on the show before, and his reaction to Twilight Imperium is interesting in that he seems excited about playing, wants to play, and then gets there, the game starts, and then he becomes like a cat, basically.
Yeah. Immediately disinterested.
Immediately not into the game. It's like he wants all the goodies of Galactic Conquest. He wants to hang out with his friends.
Yeah.
But I also think he finds something about the game
He's
cool.
interested in the politicking and sort of that, but then just doesn't do that. He's interested in the idea of doing that.
I think I was once like this, where I was like interested in playing like big, heavy board games, but actually did not want to take any time to learn them.
Yes.
And I actually feel like, Matt, you have been very formative to me and my journey in playing games like this. Well, because I don't know if I would have played as many if not for hanging out with a walking rule book robot person.
Right. Well, I don't know how I got that way either. It's very odd that
I know.
Used to also, wow, tell me.
Well, you are half spreadsheet, so your parents are Dave and Lisa, and a spreadsheet,
and a third party, which is spreadsheet. So I'm one-third spreadsheet.
It was a kinky night.
We're really just not sure if it was my dad or the spreadsheet. We have to just guess.
Yeah. And they didn't have the heart to do a test.
There's a 50% chance that I'm either 50% Dave or 50% spreadsheet. That's really how it works out. And really, the spreadsheet shows up more often than the Dave.
And we all kind of have it figured out. But we're not going to do a test. We're not going to make it real. But
no need to get Jerry Seinfeld, not Jerry Seinfeld. Oh my God, Jerry Springer involved.
Right.
Whatever.
Yeah, no need to get Jerry Seinfeld involved either. Is a good point. That is a solid point, Matt. You are very good at podcast.
Yes. I want to get away from this terrible through line and talk more about the fact that why is this so different from Jensen's story? Jensen actively gave up a win in favor of honor or whatever, and this is in the same, quadrant, I would say. This is in the same milieu.
No, it isn't. Because Simon is affecting somebody else's game for an illogical reason that will cause... The thing is, when Jensen made his choice, that was a choice he made that prevented him from winning.
Right.
It sounds like the situation we were in with Simon is that Simon made a choice that decided that everyone loses. That Simon decided himself lose, Root lose, everybody else that isn't that one, his ally loses. And that is infuriating. Every single time I played with a player that I felt like was playing this way, I was hugely upset. A lot of times it's a bummer because I used to have a problem, I feel like, with playing with newer people.
Yeah.
Where I would feel like they were being overwhelmed by the rules, and so they were just playing arbitrary. And I feel like people kind of... I feel like there's a natural instinct to try to mess me up. I don't know. It's like people I feel like I play with that are kind of new to the game. I feel like they get overwhelmed, and then they're like, oh, wouldn't it be funny if I kind of like poked at Hunter, basically? Would that be funny? And actually a lot of times I find that it doesn't end up being funny because they're like, oh wow, he's not very funny when he's mad. He's not one of those. Yeah. And wow, he is getting mad. And then it's like, how old is this kid? And then and then I'm like, I'm 29, and then I throw the ship across the room.
At least when people, at least for you, it's just strangers that like, it's sort of like a misinterpretation of things. For me, it's my friends, my close friends, actually do only get enjoyment out of making me angry and
Yes.
will do things to infuriate me so that I get mad, and they are seeking that. They
Right,
think it's
right.
funny to watch me act like a child and head desk many, many, many times.
Yeah, yeah. I think they do the same thing to me. It's just that I find it funny, like when they do it. When Sean arbitrarily decides that I owe him for trade goods.
That's great.
That is very funny.
Yeah. Man,
and-
I need another game like that. We really need another game that's just like things stop mattering. I need a goofy game.
I think we need. Well, here's what I think we need. Not to completely sidetrack this, but I think we need a game where we actually play just regular TI with Sean and Connor and whoever else that just kind of has a reputation for being weird, and not let it be too goofy, but just like have it just be stacked as far as who is involved.
Right.
I
mean, that's certainly what the Holiday Spectacular tries to do.
Right, but that's too goofy, and it hurt my brain.
No. The second game did, but the first game was normal. The first game was a normal game.
Right, but it
playing
didn't get that goofy.
It didn't get weird. That's the thing is we reserved all of our next year. I'll say this on record. I don't think we're doing 2 games back to back next year.
No,
next year I think
not.
we'll do. This is so off track, but next year I think we'll do 1 14-point game. That's what I want.
That sounds fun.
Because that gives everyone. First off, everyone's got to get all their little things out in one game, rather than like, well, I can save the goofy stuff for the goofy game. Nope. If you want to be goofy, gotta do it now, and you got a lot of time to do it because we're playing 14. I think that's gonna be wonderful.
Okay, sorry. I'm so sorry, Root, that we just
completely took this apart.
Yeah, but let me say this before we move on from this. I really like I hate what he's saying, but it's such a good story moment when he says, all that matters is the sanctity of my alliance and the fact that you have already broken your word to me. So many people have said things like that. Like, it's just, that's like, what the saltiest thing about playing Twilight Imperium is when somebody just says something to somebody else that is not motivated by the mechanics of the game at all, and is just like,
yeah. You ate 1 extra slice of pepperoni than you were supposed to.
Right,
I'm going to destroy your horse, son.
yeah. It's great. It's great. This is a good story. This was a good one. Good job, Root.
Before I start this next story, I have to lead it off with, you need to know who wrote it at the top. This is a story by Unaligned Magi.
Magi.
So, with that out of the way, it's very important that you know that this is by Unaligned Magi at the top. I tried this in a game once to see what would happen, and I won't ever do it again. I think it was a good experiment, though. I'm Barony. To my left is Winu. To my right is Sol, to his right Arborek. The game was especially brutal as 5 of the Phase 1 objectives and 2 Phase 2 objectives that we saw, nearly every single one of them required planet control. Winu tries to gravity rift to Mechatol twice and fails both times. I decide to start trolling him and send a Dreadnought to take his home system, which he left open. He is furious and declares total war, and it takes about 15 minutes to talk him into taking the gun off the table. He slowly starts rebuilding. Sol, to my right, needs one of my hazardous planets for an objective, and there's an open space between us. I tell him it's okay to attack me there, and I will retreat in exchange for a trade agreement. Not only do I not trade at all when he arrives, with nowhere to retreat to, but I then swoop in and take 2 of his planets. He asks me to leave his planets, and I agree. He pays me to move my ships, and I move them into a system. It was the system that the hazardous planet was in. So he's now outraged, and we all know that he still wants that planet. One last time, he asks to move to the system, and take the planet. He says this is the last time he will trust me, and is hoping I will be nice, considering how much I've wronged him. I tell him, yes, okay, I'll retreat. And when he sends his sole flagship, 2 dreads, and lots of fighters and infantry, I use my non-Euclidean shielding and Duranium to crush his entire fleet, losing only 1 fighter. He's literally speechless and never trusts me again in this game or any other. Finally, Arborek leaves their home planet with no infantry on it. Just for giggles, I fly a flank speed, gravity-driven dread with an infantry through a wormhole and take it. So at this point, Winnu has recovered and scored a decent amount of points. Arborek and Sol are so incredibly mad with me that they both agreed to give Winnu support for the thrones and convince Xcha, who's just been watching the whole time, to also just go ahead and give him the game. And I don't blame them at all.
All right. A dirty Magi story.
Yeah, he
How
never
dare
did
you.
this ever again.
Yeah.
He never again would Magi ever break a deal because of a timing window.
Yeah,
No.
never. Right. So if you watch, it's in Magi's semifinal game, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so
Yep.
he pulls almost
The
the exact same type of thing, which is that, I mean, technically, according to the rules, a binding deal is a deal that occurs. The deal occurs within the same timing window as what
Right.
you're doing. So I believe in the semifinal game, what essentially happens is somebody's like trying to pay Magi for Magi not to fire his PDS.
Yeah.
And technically, the way that would have to work for it to be binding is you would have to activate the system, commit your ships to movement,
Yep.
having no real idea whether the PDS are going to fire or not,
Right.
and then you pay for it, and then it is a binding deal and they can't fire.
Right.
However, what happened was the other player negotiated it the way that basically everybody does, which is just to, like, maybe even before you even activate it, you settle on a deal for PDS not to be fired. And then Magi agreed to the deal, took the money. It's probably like a trade good or two.
Yeah.
And then fired his PDS anyways.
Yep.
Because
Just immediately, too. With no hesitation. In the tournament games, I say, like, is that the end of your movement? Sort of like a Who Wants to Be a Millionaire thing, like, final answer. Is that your movement? And they go, yes. And as soon as the person said yes, Magi was like, okay, I'm going to fire my PDS. Like, knew the whole time he was definitely doing that, was just waiting for the proper timing window to say it. Because he's a dirty scoundrel.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I love it. I think it's probably one of my favorite moments of the entire tournament thus far.
Sure.
Definitely, I would say it's in the top 3, actually. But yeah, so I mean, I think in a way, Magi doing this should kind of push the meta a little bit. Right. And I am, I'm always tooting his horn, and I'm covered in all my Magi memorabilia and gear, as you should always imagine me, basically, with my big foam finger, Magi number 1. Sure. Unaligned forever, not aligned on these streets.
Never an alignment. Never shall we align.
Never shall we align. But no. I want to say, before we move on, that people should take note of this type of tactic. Right. I'm sure other people have used it. I'm not just trying to say that Magi made something up that does not exist outside of him. Other people have decided to do this, but it's his story we have here, and I want to broadcast this. People need to understand the correct timing window for a binding deal, because otherwise this is totally legal. There's nothing wrong about this.
Well, there are things wrong. There's just nothing, like you said, illegal.
It's not illegal.
It's very wrong.
I'm sorry. Did I say it wasn't wrong? It's wrong. I mean, like in an ethical sense, it is. Right. It's wrong to look at a fellow human being and say and lie to them to their face, right in front of them.
Exactly.
It's one thing. It's nicer to lie
and not
elsewhere.
For yourself as a player of TI, you need to just be prepared to protect yourself against this. Nobody should behave this way. But they can, and they do. So make your deals at the right timing window. I would certainly do this. I'll set up deals and then completely immediately betray them if it is correct. But that's just why you don't make non-binding deals. I don't love any non-binding deal ever. I think that's what I've really learned about myself as a player, is especially the more I watch the tournament games where people make these really weird convoluted non-binding deals where it's going to take like multiple rounds. Like it's round 1 and we're making a deal that will not resolve until round 3 or 4. No, that's insane. I have no interest in ever making that kind of deal. When someone starts to bring that stuff to the table with me, I think I very immediately just like, nope, no deal, I'm done. And if you're going to bring that stuff to me, I'm cutting off the negotiations. If you wanted something from me and you're going to bring that stuff, you need to learn that we don't do that. Like, I'm not going to waste time. I choose to be that kind of a negotiator of just like, what are we swapping? And if we're not swapping something, let's move on, because I'm not gonna try to like let you get an edge up on me, because that's what it always comes down to. Anytime the negotiation goes on too long, it's because everyone's trying to push the other one in a certain direction.
Yeah, and in the big, highly complicated, non-binding deals, there is a loser in all of those deals. Always, there's always someone who really is actually getting the short end of the stick,
and it's almost always the person who needs to receive something later. If I'm receiving something now, and you're going to receive something later, I just won that deal because I'm actually getting something, and there's not very much guarantee you're going to get anything ever.
Right. Yeah, and it's not even about trust. It's just like people, their game changes, and then they see it as like I don't know, like at any point in Twilight Imperium, there might be something that happens that could potentially cost you the game. And in that situation, I think there's a significant portion of the gaming population that would break a deal to not lose, basically.
Right. Let's be really clear. We've broken this down into a bigger thing. This is not what Magi was doing. Magi was not making non-binding deals that happened way later, though.
Right.
These
no, not at all.
Non-binding deals purely on a technical level. This is non-binding by a matter of like 10 seconds.
Yeah.
Which is a very different sort of behavior. Right.
The other player just, I guess, did not understand at what point a deal is binding or not. And I mean, it's pretty simple, but if you don't know the windows very well, you might not understand when you're in the correct window.
Sure.
That's the problem.
And I wouldn't even think of it as like not knowing the windows, but more importantly, just people who aren't accustomed to groups that play this cutthroat. If your group is very casual and has a good time all the time, and then you get on TTS and you play a game with Magi and he starts pulling this stuff, your first impression is like, this is a different game, and I don't even know if I like it. Like, this is so much more brutal and mean because we are taking advantage of technicalities. We're taking advantage of things like timing windows. I think there's a point. This is an interesting topic. I think there's a point in learning TI where the thematic stuff stops and you do not get to develop that anymore, and it becomes purely technical. It becomes it's still meta. It's still metagaming. You are using metagaming against people, but it is metagaming on a purely technical level. That's why we have all these things like weird abuses of action cards, and like when you can play an action card without actually doing the thing, the unstable planets and stuff like that, where it's like, oh, I'm going to do it and not actually kill any ground forces. I'm going to play this card on myself. That stuff is beyond theme and into weird rulesy metagaming. And I think some people never cross that line with their gaming groups. So when they play with a group that does cross that line, it's incredibly jarring, and just like you weren't even it's not that you didn't know it couldn't happen, you just never thought it would happen. You didn't think people played that way.
And it's kind of like taking candy from a baby in that situation too.
Right.
Yeah, I really like what you were just saying about there's the thematic and then everything else. I kind of imagine board games in general as kind of being like Chuck E. Cheese animatronic robots, where like on the surface it's like it looks like a mouse that eats pizza and he likes to skateboard. Right. But underneath it's all nuts and bolts.
It's all nuts and bolts, man.
It's all game gears and mechanical stuff. It is not they are not actually space turtles. You know what I mean? We are projecting that onto plastic and cardboard. Yeah. Let that blow your mind for a second.
Right.
Guys, it's not real.
You're freaking me out. I don't like this.
I think one thing that's interesting about this type of behavior is that I think one of the things that I really like about the tournament is that I feel like it is an opportunity to do things like this. I think a lot of people that don't play Twilight Imperium all the time on TTS, the people that they're playing with are the people that they're going to play with every time they want to play. Yeah, exactly. So if they do, this is
bad news. This is bad news for your friendship.
Which, that being said, like Matt, like, we have played Game of Thrones before, and you have done things that was wow, we are still going to be here.
I stand by my Game of Thrones play to this day.
Okay, well,
Because when you play the Game of Thrones, you win or you die. So I'm sorry. I was Greyjoy. Come on. That was so on theme. That was so thematic.
it was.
Nobody knows what we're talking about.
He just
I
shouldn't.
should.
Yeah. Anyway,
I should clarify a little bit. This is so now. So this is this Westeros life. Presented
yeah.
by
There we
Matt
go.
Martin. No.
There we go.
No, I'm not going to do a whole story, but yeah, we probably said this before, but we were playing a Game of Thrones, and someone, a dear friend of ours, Chris, he negotiated with me about having a certain territory or whatever, and it was like, okay, I'm gonna do this, and we worked out basically this weird gamey thing where we were gonna be able to kind of swap it in certain terms and do things later or whatever, and I agreed to do that, and then my immediate next turn didn't do that.
Right.
I attacked him anyways. When basically I said I wouldn't attack him somewhere, and then I definitely attacked him somewhere.
Right,
And
right.
then not only did I attack him somewhere, but I was able to turn that attack into a counterattack. In Game of Thrones, you route units. Units don't just die; they move to a new territory, but then have no attack value. And I then killed the routed units. Like, killing units in Game of Thrones is a little bit of a bigger deal, and I killed basically almost all of Chris's army in the game so that it would help me win the game. And Chris genuinely did not want to talk to me for about a week and a half.
Yep.
And Hunter was not happy with it. It was a moment. It was a similar moment to this. I mean, it's a very similar, almost the exact same idea as what Magi's story here is getting at, which is just like, I lied to you, and you now have to deal with the fact that I lied to you and knew I was lying when I made a deal with you.
Yeah,
That's a different kind of thing than I'm altering the deal. I didn't alter the deal. I made up the deal. I played pretend that we were making a deal.
Yeah. And you knew the whole time. Like, you knew that.
I absolutely knew what I was going to do.
Right.
And I'm sorry.
Yeah. It's interesting thinking about that, too, because I'm a huge fan of Magi. Huge fan, Magi. If I could get, an autograph or something, or if I could just get some of your time. No, but I think it's funny because I feel like Magi actually, style-wise, has a lot more in common with you as a player than he does me, particularly.
That offends me, and I disagree.
Style.
No, he probably does, but Magi is also very mathematical, and that's why it's interesting that he did all this, because normally I would describe Magi as someone who's pretty much a straight shooter. I mean, he's even more to a T. With me, I want to make a deal in the moment. Magi also wants to make a deal in the moment, but also Magi usually knows exactly what he wants things to be worth, and that's like the deal. He doesn't really want to negotiate higher or lower prices. For him, 2 resources equals 3 influence equals whatever amount of trade goods equals whatever amount of command counters, and he will do the equation and go, okay, this is what you owe me for what I'm going to do, and it will be even and fair, and let's move on. And that's his deal-making process. And for me, it's like, no, I want to know what something is worth in the moment.
All right, Matt, you got to slow down, because you are giving away a future episode of the show, essentially.
Yeah.
And I think it might be fun to this has just kind of come up organically, but we do plan on doing an episode analyzing all 6 finalists. And maybe even talking to them if we can get them. I don't know. I don't know about that, but
we'll try.
At least looking back at all their games in the tournament and analyzing, talking about their style and going into the game. And I'm really excited about that episode. And this was a really good story, and I liked all the stories today. I always feel like we get they're kind of starting to get into like certain lanes now too. Yeah. That's what I really like about it. Yeah, there's stories about people doing pulling off maneuvers that are ridiculous. There are stories, they're the really good stories about somebody else just behaved in a way that was insane. I really like the story style stuff where people basically write prose in regards to
I love that we are getting more and more away from Asaro played a bunch of action cards and did a thing.
Yeah.
Or Sar had so many ships. Whoa. Those were things that were good and good stories to get out early on, but I love that we're finding all these new territories of weird, bendy ways to get new stories out of TI, because I think that's where TI and where this Imperium Life gets really fun, is when it's like, this isn't normal. This is weird stuff and very noteworthy.
Yeah, that's very true. And I think that's just kind of the stage we're at too with the game. Is
Yeah.
like, we're pretty deep into TI4 at this time.
Yeah.
Right now.
It freaks me out. It freaks me out how much more we know about the game than we used to.
Yeah, kind of a bummer, right? That we did all those strategy guides.
And I want to redo all of them.
I definitely, there's not a single one that I would be like, I don't want to change anything.
confident
No. There's not a single one.
Barony is the closest, and even Barony is like, I could change some things.
There's probably stuff that could be cut from the Barony one. That's what I was thinking about the other day. Is there's probably stuff we said in there that like just it isn't like might be even be true, but probably should just go away. Like doesn't even need to be talked about. Anyways, I want more stories, so I just want to put I feel like at the end of every This Imperium Life, we should always put the call out. Anytime you have a really good story.
What's our next theme? This was supposed to be kind of a salty theme, and we got a little bit of that in there. What's the next theme?
You're asking me, but I'm pretty sure you have an idea. I don't remember what it is.
I don't remember what it was. We just gave away that we already recorded this bit, and it messed up, and we're re-recording it, and I don't remember the things we talked about last time.
If you noticed like a really weird energy shift about halfway through this episode, that's because it's a different day, y'all. My thing messed up.
Here's what I I remember. Here it is. I want to see This Imperium Life from highly competitive games, tournament games, games where the stakes were raised, and behavior that came out of the stakes being raised. And I think we would follow that up with a purely casual This Imperium Life. So really, you could submit both, and we're just going to pull them into two different parts. But I want a This Imperium Life that is more of these magi kind of things, more of these just like, what are the weird technicalities that happen because of the tournament game? Your tournament game in our tournament, your tournament game in the Austin tournament, or Seattle, or New York, or wherever you play. If you
or Gen Con.
Gen Con, any highly competitive game, I want to hear those stories. And then also, I want to hear the complete flip side of that of like, this is the group I played with for 6 years, and they're the only people I ever play with, and this is how weird things get with us, and it's really specific to our group. Those are like the two variances I really would love to start getting.
Yeah, totally. Love it. And of course, you email those to spacecatspieceturtles@gmail.com.
Yeah.
You've got mail.
Hey, I would love it if you rated our podcast on Apple Podcasts, iTunes, or anywhere that you listen to podcasts. If you give us a rating,
anywhere. Like just like on the side of a building or
just spray paint, just graffiti Space Cats Peace Turtles rules into the side of your local post office.
Yeah, those of you that do that, write it on the bathroom at your local bar, pub. Go into the bar.
What? Tattoo it to your mom. I think that'd be great. I think she'd love it. And I want to see it, and I want you to take a picture of it and send it to me.
Yeah,
your mom. Space Cats,
every podcast knows they've made it when they get a tattoo.
Right.
And I want to skip fan tattoos and go straight to your mom that doesn't listen to the show, but is very supportive of you.
And you're
agreed, and you told her, Ma, I want you to get this tattoo. And then she agreed.
I want you to put it right next to the tattoo of Married with Children. All my interests, right down your leg.
Yes.
Married with Children, Space Cats, Peace Turtles, and I was going to insert some musical artist, and I almost said Jimmy Buffett, and I didn't want to go down that road because it's a little too McElroy. Hey, at Space Cats Pod is our Twitter, and you can go there for game updates and announcements on our Facebook, Space Cats, Peace Turtles. You can get more updates about the podcast, as well as ask me questions at 2 a.m., sometimes I answer them at 2 a.m. Depends on the day.
He a lot of times does.
A lot of times I for some reason do.
He really prides having like a high, like he like getting a message back to you quickly.
I hate going below a 100% response rate. Anytime it's like 98%, it's like, who did I not respond to?
Right.
Impossible.
Right.
Also, find our posts on Reddit/r/Twilight Imperium, the Twilight Imperium subreddit for posts and other discussions. There's been a lot of fun posts recently on the subreddit, and I'm enjoying that community keeps growing and growing and growing. Also, you can join our Patreon. Last week's episode was a Space Kitty episode. We're going to be playing some Good Yin Brotherhood games coming up because the tournament is going to be winding down. We're going to get some of those games in. We need to do a Galactic Council episode. All of these perks are things you can do if you contribute to our Patreon and help contribute to the show and make the show what you want it to be. You can also join our Discord to use some of those abilities from your Patreon, or just get in on any old conversation. You don't have to be a member of the Patreon to join the Discord. Hunter Donaldson, who are you?
So I'm a comedian based out of Portland, Oregon. I don't have any specific shows to talk about right now, really, except for. I was going to say, well, so normally you can see me every Thursday at Earthquake Hurricane, which is at 8 p.m. at Ford Food and Drink. However, there's a private party this week. So we're actually not doing the show this week. So I'm actually kind of just having a little comedy break, I guess. I don't know what I'm going to do at night. Maybe I'll sleep. That might be good.
You should just go ahead and record a set in your living room and post it into the Discord.
Maybe I'll just get on Twitch and do stand-up comedy. I'll be like, I'm going to do an hour of stand-up comedy.
There's a really good market for stand-up comedy on Twitch.
Yeah, I'm going to get on the mic and I'm going to do all of my jokes to nobody and just see. And I'll do them over and over too.
In between every joke, you have to lean forward and look at your monitor and figure out who's been laughing at the joke. So everyone has to type ha 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 every time they like the joke.
Right. And yeah, I'll need to wait for everyone to check in on the joke, and whoever's there, and there's going to be like 3 people, and they're going to be like, "It was all right, it was cool," okay. And I'm like, "Did you laugh at it?"
It was a little long, and the voice got weird.
Oh, let me tell you, that is not a problem that I have with stand-up comedy. Is the jokes being too long? They're always far too short, and this is the critique I always get from people when I'm doing stand-up and it's not going very well. They'll be like, "Oh, that thing you did, I liked that. That was okay. I just feel like there's like more in it. Like, what are you?
Why aren't you telling us the rest of the joke?"
Yeah, and then I'll be like, "Well, that's all I have, though." And they'll be like, "No, there's clearly
gotta be more.
Clearly, that's unfinished." Like,
hey, I also want to thank our Space Kitties, our patrons. Boy, is it a big month for Space Kitties. I want to thank Kraken, In Mac We Trust, TG Welch, Yin for Life, Patience is a Virtue, Naderade, Durston, and Jim Bob. That is 8 Space Kitties in 1 month. That's amazing. Thank you all so very much.
And I think several of them, so I think Kraken, TG Welch, Yin for Life, Patience is a Virtue, Naderade, Durston, and Jim Bob, let us know what you'd like to do for an episode.
Yeah, we got to do Space Kitty episodes.
We've done In Mac We Trust. We've done Jotapake. We just did James Box.
Yep.
That's it. And yeah, that's it. And so,
well, we know what Yin for Life's episode is. And
yeah, so Yin for Life
on the docket.
Yeah, Yin for Life has one that he wants to do, and I think it's probably gonna be the first major thing we tackle after the tournament, huh?
Yeah.
And I'm so excited.
I love that I have a Skype window up with your face. I can visually see how excited you really are.
Oh yeah. Stoked. No, it'll be fun. It'll be fun to record with Yin for Life. It's always fun to do a Space Kitty episode.
It will be. It's just the process of getting to actually recording the episode will be a whole other ballgame.
Yeah.
Hey, one last thing right here at the end.
Oh, right.
We got an email recently, and it was from a wonderful little student in Europe, and we just want to give a shout out to Christoph Schreiber. Christoph Schreiber has got things going on, and just like, you know what, someone deserved a really good shout out, and we wanted to do that, and just kind of say, you know, we've been through hard times too, and I find that doing this show is very helpful, and so hopefully listening to the show is somewhat helpful, but more importantly, get a game in. So open invitation to Christoph Schreiber. If you hop on our Discord or email us or whatever, let's play a game of TI sometime. I think that would be a cool thing to do.
Yeah.
Because that's what helped me numerous times in like things being dark and gloomy and not as fun. It's like, hey, you know what's a really good remedy for that? Distracting yourself for like 8 hours.
Yeah.
That's really
it's a long distraction. And it's hard to think about anything while you're playing Twilight Imperium. You know what I mean? Like, I think there have been games of TI where if you asked me my name, I'd be like, what year is it? You know, I'm in I'm out in the galaxy.
In the space zone.
Right. I'm in the
space place.
Hey, I'm in the space place right now. Don't bother me. Yeah, and I just want to use this opportunity to just thank I think this is a really great community of people that listen to this show.
Definitely.
I think you guys are all super great, and life gets hard sometime, and that's why you just gotta play some TI and take a moment and realize that really, there's a lot of things that are important in life, and one of the main ones is prioritizing victory points over like it being space race. That's like, there's like important stuff that in life and stuff, but like I think I'm going to get really philosophical now, but I think as long as you remember that it's about the victory points, you'll win.
Thank you for listening to Space Cat's Peace Turtles, and thanks to Ben Prunty for the use of his music. You can find more at benpruntymusic.com and benprunty.bandcamp.com. Pax Magnifica, Bellum Gloriosum.